when Donald Trump was reelected, Wall Street was thrilled, excited about deregulation, tax cuts, and the fact that you could once again call people sugar tits. Could have lasting effects on the global economy, on everyday Americans, and most worryingly, the stock portfolios of members of Congress. Mr. President, now is the time to soothe a worried nation. The genius who gave us classics like Sleepy Joe and Crooked Hillary just shit out "You're a Panican"?
Last night, I watched Jon Stewart do something I never thought possible. I defend Donald Trump for a full 3 minutes without breaking character. The studio audience was squirming in their seats, some looking genuinely concerned that Stewart had gone to the dark side. Then came the twist, and that's what Trump supporters actually believe, Stewart said, dropping the act. What followed was 15 minutes of the most precise, surgical dismantling of those arguments I've ever seen. Stewart showed exactly why this both sides nonsense doesn't work when one side is literally threatening democracy. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Last night, Jon Stewart pulled a stunt that left his audience with their jaws on the floor. In what can only be described as performance art for the politically savvy, Stewart announced he was going to try something different. He was going to channel his inner MAGA supporter.
Did the overseas factory you had been sourcing your nicknames from get shut down during the tariff war? So we're going to try this again, Mr. President. Can you ease the fears of this nation like a true leader? Your economic policy has the same tagline as season 3 of Squid Game? That's supposed to make us feel better?
If Harris wins this election, the result will be a Kamala economic crash, a 1929-style depression.
I know the stock market is not the totality of the economy, but if I remember correctly, in the run-up to the election, Trump seemed very concerned about the stock market.
Not by actually wearing the red hat, of course, but by attempting to see the world through Trump-colored glasses for a few minutes. Look, I know this might make some of you uncomfortable, Stewart said with a sly grin, but I think it's important we try to understand the other side. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to be a Trump supporter. The audience shifted nervously in their seats, unsure if they should laugh or be concerned. What followed was 3 straight minutes of Stewart defending Trump's economic vision with such conviction, you'd think he was auditioning for a Fox News hosting gig. He launched into a spirited defense of Trump's tariff plans, explaining how these trade barriers would supposedly bring manufacturing jobs flooding back to American shores. When you put a 60% tariff on Chinese goods, Stewart bellowed while mimicking Trump's distinctive hand gestures, flailing his arms and pinching his fingers together, you create a situation where American companies have no choice.
Please love me! And it didn't have to happen like this. Trump had so many options to shape the world economy into the one he thought was fairer. He could have proposed some incentives to bring back manufacturing, and no effort before they asked ChatGPT what it thought they should do. But for those of us who've been tricked into believing that an economic crisis is a crisis, Trump's people have an answer. And when did the right become so chill? Aren't you the Bud Lights turning my kids trans, folks? But economic meltdown and you're getting all philosophical?
But to build their factories right here in the good old USA. We're gonna win so much, you'll get tired of winning. The impression was uncanny. From the pouty lips to the squinty eyes, Stewart had clearly spent some time studying the former president's mannerisms. The real genius of Stewart's routine was his strategic use of economic data, cherry-picked statistics that, when presented in isolation, seemed to support Trump's America First policies. The trade deficit with China was $389 billion last year, Stewart proclaimed in his Trump voice. That's money flowing out of America, folks. Straight to China, not good. He pounded his fist on the desk in Trump-like fashion, and you could see some audience members actually nodding before catching themselves. As the bit continued, Stewart defended Trump's border policies, claiming they would protect American jobs and security. The audience grew visibly uncomfortable.
One top banker told the paper that he feels liberated because now he can use offensive slurs like the R word and the P word without fear of getting canceled at work.
Using both of those words, perhaps even adding motherfucker right now.
Markets across Asia, Europe, and Australia plunging.
At one point this morning, the Dow sinking almost 1,600 points.
The markets lost more than $6.5 trillion in value.
This is an economic Armageddon.
Some laughed nervously while others exchanged worried glances, wondering if their beloved Jon had lost his mind, or if this was all building to something. The comedic tension in the room reached fever pitch when Stewart dove headfirst into conspiracy territory. "The deep state doesn't want Trump to succeed," he said, lowering his voice to a theatrical whisper. "They're all working against him. The FBI, the CIA, the Department of Justice, even the post office. They're reading his mail, folks." He widened his eyes in mock paranoia. "They put microchips in the COVID vaccines to track us. The election was stolen by Venezuelan voting machines and Italian satellites." By this point, the audience was in a state of confused discomfort. Some were laughing out of sheer nervousness. Others looked genuinely concerned about Stewart's mental health. Then, just as the tension became almost unbearable, Stewart dropped the act entirely. His posture straightened, his voice returned to normal, and he stared directly into the camera. "And that," he said with deadly seriousness, "is what millions of Americans genuinely believe. Now let's talk about why it's complete nonsense." The relief in the studio was palpable as applause erupted. Stewart had pulled off the ultimate bait and switch, and now came the payoff. With surgical precision, he dismantled each pro-Trump argument he'd just made, revealing the logical fallacies and factual errors hidden beneath the surface. "Those tariffs I just praised," Stewart began, "they're actually a tax on American consumers. When we put tariffs on Chinese goods, the price of those goods goes up. And guess who pays that increase? Not China. You do." He went on to explain how economists across the political spectrum have concluded that Trump's tariff policies had cost American consumers billions while failing to bring back manufacturing jobs as promised. One by one, Stewart tackled each point he'd made during his MAGA persona routine. He pulled up charts showing how immigration actually correlates with economic growth, not decline. He played clips of Trump's own appointed officials contradicting conspiracy theories about deep state plots and stolen elections. What made this routine so effective wasn't just Stewart's comedy chops, but the evolution it revealed in his approach to political commentary. Gone was the both-sidesism that characterized much of his earlier work on The Daily Show. In its place was something more direct, more willing to call out specific falsehoods while still maintaining enough empathy to understand why people might believe them. What Jon Stewart accomplishes goes far beyond the tired late-night comedy formula. His ratings spiked to 1.85 million viewers, the show's largest audience in nearly 6 years, proves audiences crave something deeper than Trump hair jokes. Some critics like Steve Almond slam Stewart's approach, arguing his calm-down paternalism and false equivalency between Trump and Biden actually imperils American democracy. They believe he's unintentionally echoing right-wing talking points. But whether you agree with Almond or not, Stewart's method demonstrates how comedy can still serve as a doorway to serious conversation. By temporarily embodying the opposition before dismantling it, he's created a blueprint for engaging with political differences that resonates with millions.